Hello, welcome to Showbiz, a musical theater podcast where you may be surprised to find out there is, in fact, a 9/11 musical. I'm your
Oh,
host, Luna Rose, pronouns they, she, he. Joining me today is Verity Van Dams. I hope I'm saying your last name
hell
right.
yeah, you are. You are.
Hi, Verity. How are you
Mm,
doing today?
Hello. I am actually doing really great, and I'm really excited to talk about this musical because like you say, you would never believe there would be a musical that can somehow be about 9/11, not set in America, and also so like surprisingly heartfelt and upbeat
Yeah,
in
totally.
places.
So, for anyone who hasn't yet figured it out, the show we'll be talking about today is Come From Away. But before we get into that, Verity, do you want to tell a little bit about yourself, your pronouns, how we met, what you're up to?
Cool. So I'm Verity. I'm obviously British, but I now live out here in California. I met Luna through Epic Players LA, which is a neurodivergent theatre company. Yes,
Yes.
neurodivergent people. So I'm a neurodivergent creative. I'm an actor, started out in theatre and got more into TV and film when I moved over here because I fell in love with a Californian and we got married. So that's how I ended up out here. And now I'm like big into the Meisner technique. Pronouns they, she, kind of like an either or situation there. Very chill. Um, I have musical theatre has always been a special interest of mine because I loved the idea that it was difficult. Like there were all these main disciplines that you had to crisscross, like singing, dancing, and acting at once. But as somebody that kind of struggled with the visual processing of learning dances at the same speed as others, that was probably part of what brought me on my journey to discovering my neurodivergence. Was I had this intense interest, but that didn't always translate into being good at the dancing
Mm,
part, which drove me mad. Uh, but I'm very confident as a singer and an actor, and I actually do enjoy dancing now that I've accepted that it's not about being the best at everything in the room all the time. You can just enjoy doing it at any level that you are at. Been good for me.
totally. So, about Come From Away, I had never actually heard of this show prior to preparing for this podcast, and then I found
Oh,
a recording of it on Apple TV. It
yes.
was it was actually really good. I was like pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
So Verity, why did you choose this show to talk about?
This show was just, it's still big up one of the ones that I will put on in the car if we're on a long journey because it's such a journey emotionally every single time. Like the emotions hit. It's so hopeful. I became aware of this show through exactly the same way that you did, but maybe a year or two sooner. So the pandemic happened and they did this recording of the show because Broadway was shut at the time. So I think they recorded it in like 2021 or 2020. And so then I saw it on Apple TV and it actually prompted me and my husband to want to go to New York to see it. We had no aspiration of specifically seeing the original cast or anything, but we were lucky to see that exact cast except for one different person. When we saw it, I think we were there in 2022, September is when we went to New York to see it. And it was incredible. My favorite performer is the person that plays the pilot, and she also plays like the goofy school teacher who's like a bit of a fantasist. Those are some of my favorite moments, like her imagination moments. Very neurodivergent. Thank you.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I yes. And another thing I love about this show is it's very minimal on the set, and the actors they're all multi-rolling with minor costume changes. But it reminds me in a way of Warhorse, how you know that the puppeteers are puppeteering and it's not really a horse, and yet you're so invested that you believe. And that's how I feel about this cast and the illusion they create. You're really with them in whatever room they tell you you're in. You're just like, yes, I'm with you, because they're so deep into the performance that they're giving that it's believable. And I love anything where you can suspend your disbelief. And that even though I love the spectacle of a show that can bring you in without requiring intense spectacle to keep you engaged, I think is it speaks for itself. Like it can keep you engaged despite not being a fireworks, bells and whistles kind of show.
I thought the way that the show was staged was really cool, and the way that they did, the planes, and then and, the small town of
Yeah,
Gander in Canada. It was all really cool. So, without further ado, I'm just going to give a quick background on the
do
show.
it.
So, Come From Away is a musical based on the true story of Operation Yellow Ribbon. A lot of people might not know about this, but Operation Yellow Ribbon was an event carried out by both American and Canadian airports immediately following the September 11th attacks. A lot of planes were suddenly ordered to land in 17 different airports throughout Canada. This musical specifically takes place in the Newfoundland town of Gander, where 38 planes landed with 7,000 passengers. It was written by Canadian writers Irene Sankoff and David Hine, who actually visited Gander in 2011, which was the 10th anniversary of the attacks, and they interviewed locals and former passengers there. So they basically based the musical on the mostly true stories of the people they interviewed. Some of the stories were kind of merged or,
Mm.
slightly changed for storytelling purposes. It was originally performed as a 45-minute workshop at the Canadian Music Theatre Project in 2012. They were eventually invited back to finish the project. It was performed in full in 2013. It found success at various theaters from there before finally hitting Broadway in 2017. It received 7 Tony nominations, including Best Musical, Best Original Score. Jen Colella, I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she was nominated for Best Featured Actress in a Musical for her role as Beverly Bass, who is a very famous pilot. We'll get to her in a minute. And
Mm.
then Christopher Ashley won a Tony for Best Direction of Musical for this show. So it's actually quite successful. I did not
Yeah.
realize. So basically, the way I kind of want to do this in like with every episode is rather than necessarily, you know, deep diving like the entire story scene by scene, we could talk about just each musical number and just
Yeah.
touch on the themes. And basically, like
Mm.
I have like a thesis for each episode. Uh,
Amazing.
the my basic thesis is the show is like a really great example of showing what it means to be in community with each other and like what being in community entails, especially in like
Mm.
such a large scale crisis like 9/11. There's a lot of moving parts to take care of each other and make sure everyone has what they need. And it's stuff that we take for granted or like don't really think
Mm.
about, right? Like you have to have acceptance and understanding of people of differing backgrounds and cultures. There has to be someone who can take care of the animals. There has to be someone who can drive people places. Like there's so many
Mm.
moving parts. Uh, it's actually quite amazing how this small town managed to like extend their resources to like
Mm.
7,000 strangers.
Yes, and how willing they were
Yes,
as well.
I think we've kind of I think there's a part of our society that's kind of lost that a little bit. Like
Yeah.
not entirely. Like recently we did have the LA fires. A lot of people in California, at least, and also Australia, like stepped up to help.
Mm.
There's been a lot of like donation drives, like within our community. But then I hear people
Mm.
outside of California just speak so negatively. We're just like, oh, well, it's just rich people, so we don't care. And it's like, no, it
Mm.
wasn't. A lot of people
Right.
affected by the fires were disabled. A lot of people who died in the
And
fires were disabled.
yeah, because they couldn't get out fast enough or various reasons. But yes, I think you make a very good point because this show very much touches on helping strangers, helping people you don't know, helping people you could make assumptions about. Especially if these are all flights going to America. Imagine if that community had been taught to have a negative view of America. And I feel like there's a line or a character that really strikes me, a character that really took a minute to trust uh, that he was living in a community that was so like open and friendly, and how he misses it after he leaves. Because I another great thing about this show is that they do kind of follow up at the end, like where everybody goes, how everybody's feeling afterwards. There's a love story, there's a breakup story. Um, yeah, you're right. It's about community and it's about showing up for people that you technically don't have to show up for. Like none of us technically have to show up for each other. Showing up for each other isn't about obligation, it's about service, community service, like willing community service, I think is one of the most beautiful things that humans have with each other.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Let's start with the opening number, Welcome to the Rock. First of all,
Oh,
I really enjoy the music style in the show. It's like very
mm,
folksy, and I feel like we don't
mm.
get a lot of that for musical theater.
Yeah, and it puts you straight into the location, straight into the vibe. Like I think it comes in very heavy on the beat, and you're like, oh, this feels almost like tribal and ancient, and it speaks to like the history of how those people came across and stayed in Newfoundland, and they talk about the harsh life and of actually trying to build a safe community and a place to live there, and how it wasn't necessarily very easy, which of course sets us up for why these people have such a community mind. Like we stick together, we keep everyone alive.
Yeah, it's a small town, right? Where like everybody
Mm.
knows each other.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
only recently. But there's one character that really puts it into perspective for me. She's brand new to the news station. She's the character
yes,
who
Janice.
is the report. Yes, Janice, and she's just moved from a town that doesn't even have stoplights, and so she says, "I'm sorry if I run a red light. I'm not used to stoplights." Like, think about it. If that to her is the marker of like, ooh, big brash city that they even have red, green, and yellow lights, and she comes from somewhere that doesn't have that.
Yeah, I find that super interesting. Just like things that might not even cross one person's mind is like a total culture
Mm.
shock for another person.
Yeah.
I remember after I graduated college, I basically drove up the coast for a little road trip. When I got to Oregon, I didn't know this until I actually had to stop for gas in Oregon. But basically, in the state of Oregon, it's required by law that someone has to pump your gas for you. So
Yes, I've heard this.
I see this like random man walking up to me and like, can I help you? I'm like, where? And he's like, yeah, I have to pump your gas for you. And he sees my license plate. Like, oh, you're from California. Oh, yeah, we actually have to pump your gas for you. I'm like, what?
What?
So that was like super interesting.
Culture shock. Culture shock. Yeah. Oh, another thing about the song is that I think maybe one of my favorite things about the musical is when they're saying, "I'm an islander, I am an islander." There's so much pride and this ferocity, but not ferocity like I'm an islander and we're gonna get you. Like I'm an islander and like we know how to survive and we know how to band together, which really again sets the tone for what we're about to experience. Especially if you go in not knowing what you're about to experience, you just go in liking these people. They're like, yeah, that they've survived a lot. They're cool. When they say fish and chips and shipwrecks, I was like, yes, okay. As a Brit, I relate. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to ask about that because I know certain like parts of Canada either are currently or have been at one point occupied by Britain. Was Gander one of those places?
I think so because I think Canada might still be considered part of the Commonwealth. I believe they're still their own thing. They're like all self-governed. I don't think the royal family can like make them do anything. But they still, when I was in Canada in 2016, they still had the Queen on their money.
Mm.
So like her face was still on coins, and they call them what loonies and toonies, those $1 and $2 coins that they have.
Yeah. So a lot of the numbers kind of bleed into each other, which I always love when
Mm,
shows do that. But what stuck out to me basically towards like in between Welcome to the Rock and then the next number, which is 38 Planes, we kind of
mm,
see kind of the I guess problems they're having within their own community. For example, like there was a bus strike happening at this
Mm,
point, and that like comes into play a little bit later. That was like the main big thing that I am remembering right now. But I just found that so
mm,
interesting that like they were kind of having their own problems going
mm.
on when these passengers landed, and then
Right, and they put all of it aside.
yeah, exactly. Like Mayor Claude like has a fight with like an argument with the person leading the bus strike about, hey, can we just like pause this real quick because we need these buses to transfer everybody, and they basically like, all right, but as soon as these people are gone, like the strike is back on.
Yeah. And I love that, the idea that, like, oh, in an emergency, we can be reasonable, we can talk, we can change things up. And I think it really helps highlight that how this was unprecedented and completely interrupted everything they had going on. The town's population doubled overnight. Like, how do you deal with that influx of people and not all of them even you can communicate with easily?
Yeah, that's what was crazy to me too. Was in the 38 planes number, they're watching how many planes are landing, and like
Mm,
everyone comes out to watch it because such it's like an event, you know? Like they've never seen anything like this before, and it's twice as many people as they're used to, and they're kind of panicking on whether or not they have enough resources to take care of
mm.
everybody. I
It's
love that number so much.
yes. Um, you get to introduce to so many of the characters too, and you get introduced to the concept that they're going to be multi-rolling, so it kind of serves multiple purposes. I was just like thinking about the music and how well it captures that they're excited but fearful and are like this. They even say things like where our story starts, and kind of you really get the sense of like this is life changing for everybody involved. What's about to happen here, and they didn't know it, but like this happened to be the day that everyone's lives would be changed forever because so many people's paths crossed in this next week of however whatever's going on, and sad and happy and just I think about music and I get emotional because I think they capture it so well. It lead into 28 hours as well.
Yeah,
um
so after 38 planes, there's blankets and bedding, which those two kind of bleed into
yeah,
each other. It's the number where they basically are just like, I don't know how we're gonna do this, but
yeah.
we don't have a
We
choice.
need this,
They're
we need this,
here,
we need this.
but we're gonna do what we can.
Yeah. And how store vendors were like, take anything you need off the shelves. They were just like, yes, I guess we're doing this. We're doing
Yeah,
this.
just steal
And then
stuff, guys. It's fine.
just take it. And how I love the back and forth where they have the joke where the guy keeps going, the guy keeps going for everything. Like, oh, we're gonna need baby food, we're gonna need this. And then the one thing that he felt too embarrassed to go get was like hundreds of tampons. And she's like, so I'll go get them. So I'm back to shoppers, she says, which I thought was great. Like they find these moments of levity in the midst of an emergency that really help kind of keep the audience at ease. And I remember when I saw it live, I was exhausted because we had caught a red eye flight and then stayed up all day to watch this musical. And I was actually like, before the overture started, I'm like almost dozing in my seat. I'm like, no, I'm gonna miss it. The whole point we came out was for this. Don't fall asleep, Verity. And then the second the music started, I was wired. I was like, here we go. Yes, the whole thing. And yeah, I completely forgot I was tired because it's so engrossing, the experience. I'd recommend anybody watch it. Like the one on Apple TV, it's a great example of how watching a musical on television does not discourage you from seeing it live. Like it made me go and see it live. I thought it was incredible. Um,
Yeah.
and that song, you feel the rally, you feel the energy. The beat is very like it's just very fast, very emergency, but we're rushing, but we're not scared. I mean, they are scared, but they're not giving up. And then it goes into this. After all of that motion and movement and momentum, you get the 28 hours, and you realize that while the town's been doing this, the people on these planes have been there for like a day in the same seat over a day. And they do it so beautifully on the stage where they they seamlessly point out that they're representing a bunch of different planes. a bunch of different flights and a bunch of different people in all kinds of scenarios by just lining up chairs on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Incredible. And the different voices of the different characters. Like, I'm a parent, so I know when they start playing movies, it's because they want us to stop asking questions. And they talk about all the movies they watch. And
Yeah.
how some people had a great time and got drunk and were like flashing passers-by. I love that part.
It is so
Oh,
real.
that was good. Yeah, so real. Uh, Open
Yeah.
the airplane doors, flash all the cars, head to wherever you are.
What I thought that the 28 hours slash wherever we are number did so well is they really captured just uh the urgency and uncertainty of what was going on at that time. When when 9/11 happened, like everyone, like pretty much everyone knows that that was like a big deal. It was completely unprecedented. It changed the way we do everything. With like there's entire YouTube videos that you can go watch talking about how it changed everything. And I don't think we talk about enough how people who were like on different planes like had no idea what was happening.
Yeah, they didn't have, this is before smartphones and having the news in your pocket. And so there are all these rumors flying around, people freaking out, and other people like, maybe some of those people ended up restrained. They kind of implied that, but they didn't go into it too much. They more had a comedy beat about a woman that's like, I'm claustrophobic, I have to get off the plane. And one of the Kevins turns around like, we're all freaking out. Stop freaking out. I can imagine how terrifying that is, because 28 hours is a long time. Even if you know you're getting off at the end of that 28 hours when you don't know when it will end must feel like a lifetime.
Yeah,
Not knowing when it will end is the scary part for me.
yeah. And like there's definitely big themes of community throughout this show, but it's realistic where like tensions are high and like there are arguments going on. Like
Mm.
people are stressed out. This is like an incredibly scary time and some people lash out.
Yeah.
Like
And become
at no point do
unfairly
we
suspicious.
yeah, at no point do I feel the show is like, oh, this thing happened and everyone came together. No.
No.
I appreciate that they don't shy away from the fact that these people are human beings and make mistakes and they have feelings and they may not handle themselves very well. Who would in a
Mm.
situation like that? And then, we'll see like, the racism that comes to play in a
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly. And though it's not condonable, but it is understandable when you look at these people have no information. You see that their passions are high. You don't know what their education is like. If these are people from all around, all places in America, all around the world, and who knows what they've been brought up to believe, and you start to see how that clashes, and you're like, wow, I'm so glad they captured this, because it would have been too squeaky clean and smiley smiley to be like everyone banded together. Like, no, people were terrified and they were accusing each other, or trying to call each other out. It gets kind of like almost mob politics at times, like pitchforks, and which is terrifying. They highlight that in one character who really kind of feels like nobody trusts me, nobody wants to be anywhere near me, purely because of his race and religion, or even just assumed race and assumed religion. Like, racism doesn't check your ID before they go, you look suspicious. You know what I mean? They could be even completely wrong about where they think he's from and who they think he is, which happens unfortunately very frequently.
We're introduced to Beverly Bass. She's able
Yeah,
to get a hold of her husband and she's like, tell the kids I'm okay, show them the map we used to put pins in for each destination we flew together. She's definitely in leader mode because she is the captain. She has to remain calm because everyone else
yeah,
is freaking out. She's trying to reassure her family. And then she finds out that her friend Charles died in the attacks.
yeah.
And you can
She
tell,
keeps reassuring.
yeah, you can tell
Sorry.
how gutted she is to hear that. And she still somehow uh, manages to keep it together and still reassure everyone around her, I'm fine, we're going to get through this.
Mm. Yeah, because she's so sure, either she genuinely believes or she doesn't want her husband to know, that she probably wouldn't have known the person. She's like, well, statistically, I probably wouldn't have known them. I just want to know. And then when he says it was Charles, and she's like, wow, I just saw him in a pub in London. How can how can this be? That's so her performance really carries the weight of that moment, but how she's still keeping it together because she then says, no, I'm fine, Tom, I'm fine, I'm fine. Um, yeah, very different to the other characters the same actress plays. So she captures the idea that this character is very put together, very stoic, and yet not severed from their emotions, just very well balanced in how they're coping with the situation, still being a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I kind of, it's like a small critique about the show, but I kind of wish there were some younger characters.
Yeah, we don't see any
Like,
kids.
yeah, I kind of wish not like actual child, not actual children
Yeah.
necessarily, but I wish maybe we had like some of the actors play children or like adolescents.
Yes, to capture those experiences too.
Yeah, because like this shit is hard for adults to process.
Mm.
So like for a child or a teenager to go through that as well, like I just would have liked that point of view as well.
Yeah. No, that I think that's a good point.
So then we get into the next number, which is Darkness and Trees. This
Mm.
is where the locals and the passengers are meeting for the first time, and there's so many of them. They actually had to transfer a lot of them out to the nearby towns, which I thought was
Yeah.
interesting.
Right. And everyone's getting on these buses. They don't know where they're going. They're like, are we being detained? Because at this point, they haven't had any news. So they don't really understand what's happening. So the people of Newfoundland are just trying to be like, okay, let's take them in. Let's do this. Let's do that. And they're trying to be friendly. I think one of my favorite moments that captures the miscommunications that can happen, especially in times of heightened fear, is where like they're thinking, oh, we're going to put on our Salvation Army uniforms and greet everybody and basically be like, we're here for you.
Oh God,
And
that
of
didn't
course,
age
some,
well.
yeah, exactly. But one of the things that happens is that a family who I believe they're represented to be from Africa who don't understand the context of any of this are like, there are soldiers everywhere. Like they think that they don't see it as a big welcoming. They see it as like, oh my goodness, like the armed forces are here and we're somehow in trouble, something's happening. And I think that that was a really good point to capture so succinctly is that no matter what they did, what your culture perceives as welcoming, somebody else is going to be like, oh, are we going to get shot at? What's happening here? And how passions and tensions were really high. Um, and then they break that tension when they show like they're driving the buses, and then they're like, "Oh, that's a moose. She'll move when she's good and ready." And that's just like, oh, halfway through our journey, we had to wait for a moose to cross the road. And how they're out in the middle of nowhere. And even the pilot says, like, I've flown over this area a bunch of times. There's no lights down there. I didn't even realize there were really towns down there. Um, so it's a place where people live, but it's certainly not, downtown.
No.
There's not a lot going on. There's wildlife interrupting the passage of cars. There's no stoplights. Yeah, so uh, a really disconcerting place to be stranded. And yeah, people couldn't get home any other way. They talk about that later too. Like people are like, "Oh, I'm just going to take a boat or something," and they're like, "Yeah, it's still going to take you several days. You might as well wait for your flight."
Yeah, when they're basically like giving directions, like, oh, how do we get out of here? It's like, oh, well, you're probably gonna want to take a boat here, and then you're gonna want to take a bus, and then you'll take another
Mm,
ferry here. Yeah, it's like it's a lot.
mm,
This is also where we start to see more of, like you mentioned, the cultural differences and also the racism and like racial tension that's
Mm.
happening. So we're introduced to a man named Ali when they're being asked, like, oh, what's your citizenship? What's the purpose of your trip? What's your destination? And Ali says that, he's an Egyptian citizen. And like, they just immediately start treating him differently from everybody else,
Yeah,
right? Like, they
he's getting
immediately,
cert.
he's getting searched, he's taken in for questioning. And then they make a comment of, they they seem to imply that the people of color were the last to be transferred out at like 3 in the morning, because one of the bus drivers is like, oh, there's people from all over the world, Germany, England, France. And then finally at 3 a.m., my bus is designated to take all these African people out there. And it was like the way he said it was like,
Mm.
it seemed kind of like microaggressive.
Right. And I wonder if that was something that was written in or like an acting choice that was made um, to highlight that. It's interesting that they don't go more into detail. But yeah, you're right. Like there's a heavy implication there that they were the very last to get to leave, which is not in any way or shape or form fair.
Mm-mm.
Um, but that's really what 9/11 did to a lot of, particularly the Western world, make people more suspicious of people based on race and religion. So I'm glad they didn't try to skirt over it and like not mention it at all. That would have been really odd.
Yeah, I actually would have been very upset if they, tried to brush past that. Um,
Mm.
and this is kind of what happens anytime a big tragedy is happening, right? If there's anytime
Mm.
there's been an economic recession or a big tragedy like 9/11, it's going to be an already marginalized group getting scapegoated for it.
Mm. So Ali's character, I believe, doesn't he turn out to be, is he the same character as the guy that turns out to be the chef later on, where he's like, "Can I please help with the food?" Is that the same
Yes,
guy?
yeah, it's the same guy. He's
Sure.
like offering to help in the kitchen because he's like a chef and he runs all
Mm.
these restaurants all over the world, and they just keep like brushing off. He's like, no, 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 you're fine.
Yeah. He's like, "No, please, like I know how to do this. Let me help." And I love that moment where she's like, when he tells her who he is, and she's like, "Oh my God, please get in there, do your thing, delegate, tell everybody what to do, please." Um, yeah, it's just a really nice moment when you see even the people who are stranded start to feel that sense of we have to take care of each other, even especially after everything that he's been through. He's still like, "Oh, let me help, let me be of use, let me um support this huge operation you guys have going on over here."
Yeah, so yeah, this is what I mean when I say like, being in community with other people is so many moving parts that we take for granted, because there's that,
Mm.
and then we learn that there's a bunch of animals on the plains, and one of the locals,
Yes.
Bonnie, is like searching for them and like taking care of them. And like she's the one to
And
like point out like, hey, I hear barking in here. Are there animals on these plains? Let me go check.
and they tried to put her off at first. They're like, "Oh yeah, there's no animals." She's like, "I don't believe that." And then she's like basically like breaking into the planes to make sure that animals are getting food and water and getting their medications. Because can you imagine all of those animals could have died if somebody hadn't been like, "Hey, we can't just let them rot in there in the
Yeah,
dark for a week."
yeah, she probably saved those animals' lives.
Yes. And then she finds out, she's like, "Oh, I think she says it's a bonobo chimp
Yeah, a rare
that's on the
bonobo
plane."
chimpanzee. Yeah, there's two of them.
And how excited she is, where she's like, "I don't know exactly how to care for these animals, but somebody's got to do something." And then one of them is going to give birth. I just think it's, and then her husband is trying to be like, "You're going to get in trouble, Bonnie. We have to go home." And she's like, "Help me or go away."
Yeah, so like that's like a really big
Legend.
thing
Legend.
that people don't really think about much when like an
Mm.
emergency is happening. It's like, how are these pets going to be taken care of?
Yeah. Like, we get that we don't want them scattered and taken out and people lose track of who's where because there's people's pets. And maybe even some of these animals are being transported without their humans. Like, how do we know that they're not just waiting for them at the other end?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
how that all works. I know, like, how terrifying that must have been when you're like, oh, am I ever going to see my beloved companion again? Especially for the animals who have no idea what's happening.
I know, poor
Um,
things.
So I love how her character is such a badass and is like, no, I'm doing something. I'm doing my job. I literally do this all day as a veterinarian. Let me be a veterinarian and let me get in there.
Yeah, she's
So
my
she's really
hero.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's my hero. I do not play about animals. Yeah,
So yeah,
so
he's amazing.
yeah.
And at this point, have the people gone, they've seen the news and they're just staring at it like,
Yeah, that's the next
yeah.
number. Lead us out of the night. They finally find out what happened. And just one of the locals says something to the effect of, "We were all just staring at those images and just standing there helpless."
Mm.
Um,
Oh, it gives me chills.
and then we learn a little bit about Beverly's friend Charles, who was, a real person. Charles Burlingham.
Mm.
I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he was the captain of the Flight 77, which is the plane
Mm.
that crashed into the Pentagon.
Wow. Whew. And everybody just staring at those images on the TV until somebody eventually switches it off. Like, there's only so much. We're not learning any new information. We're just sitting in our grief and our terror. And there is the mother of a fireman who's like can't get hold of her son, and she spends the whole musical trying to check on him, find out if he's okay. Like, even if he's not on shift, he's brave, he's reckless, he's gonna go down there and help.
Yeah, um, it's like it's very real and like perfectly captures like what the general response was to 9/11 at the time.
Mm.
Like it was horrifying, and like no one had ever seen anything like this before, right? I mean, I do feel it's important to point out, because there was a lot of things that led up to 9/11, and like, not to say 9/11 was an inside job. I don't care about that. I care more about like, you know, modern day colonialism and how, the U.S. involvement in various Middle Eastern countries in the 90s, um, like that's kind of like this, like people who are like more familiar with that kind of saw something like this coming, and it was just like, it was the result of like years and years and years of um,
Mm.
American imperialism, and I just felt that that was important to point out,
Yeah.
and that's not to discount um, the lives that were affected by 9/11, because it was
No.
totally tragic, and the impact that it had on these people is like very real and very sad. Um,
Yeah.
it's more so to say that like this this was more the
Didn't.
fault of the
Yeah.
American government than people like to think.
Then people would like to talk about commonly, and I get it because obviously no branch of the American government is going to be like, yeah, we knew this might happen or something like this might happen, and we did what we did anyway. Like, no one's going to come out and say something like that, and I'm sure they didn't want this to happen, but there's definitely international politics is very, very complicated, and I wouldn't be able to comment directly on how any of it works, but it's when big players are at play, it's usually civilians that end up, that didn't make those decisions, didn't make the decision to be part of any of this, or in various countries, not just the US, not just Britain where I'm from, but anywhere. And it's the everyday citizens that end up suffering the consequences of those in power.
Yeah, absolutely. What also stuck to me about this show that is still so prevalent today. They make so many references about how they just can't watch the news. It's too horrible. So in this number,
Mm.
they're like watching everything play out and they're so horrified, but they can't look away. And then someone finally has to turn the TV off. It's like, let's take our minds off of this for right now. And they make
Mm.
several references to like, God, I just can't watch the news. I need something else to do because I can't watch the news.
Yeah.
I
And we feel like that right now.
I feel like it's even more prevalent today in the age of social media and just
Mm.
literally having the news in your hand.
Mm.
That's like even more prevalent today than it was back in 2001. Um,
Right. We're bombarded with reasons to like freak out, give up, and it's emotional whiplash in your palm all the time.
yeah, and it's like so much. Like we have access to so much information more than we ever have before. And it's like, it's really overwhelming and really hard to keep up with. One of the reasons I have
Mm.
such a hard time making consistent content, especially on TikTok, which is where I have the most following, just every time I get on TikTok, like I just find myself doom scrolling, not because I want to or because I like doing this, but like there's like almost an addiction factor to it. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't feel good about this.
Yeah. I don't really have a following to speak of, but I know it at times when I have considered like, oh, that would probably be as an actor, that's probably something I should try to have. But like we all talk about that. Um, I realized what one of the biggest factors for me not wanting to get involved in that was realizing that I didn't like the idea uh, of contributing to something that I feel could be a problem. Like if I'm going to put something out there, that I would want it to be something that's encouraging and worth putting out there. You know, like how artists, how we feel about our art. You want your art to mean something. You want it to resonate with people. And I felt every time I wanted to make something that if I didn't feel like it was going to have a positive impact, I couldn't bring myself to make it because I thought if someone's there doom scrolling, I don't want to be the reason they can't stop. Or if someone's not feeling good about themselves and then I'm posting about something great, is that going to make them feel bad? And you think about the impact that you have. And I like that our generation and younger generations think more about that. And I'm not saying this because I want to directly discourage anybody from making content, but I certainly felt discouraged from making content based on, yeah, it already feels like an oversaturated place where a lot of us are trying to disconnect. And I care more than ever about what I'm putting out there, and how it affects people.
So, what's the next number? Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
the next number is costume parties. So, I think at this
Mm,
point they've been in town for like a day, and so they need clean clothes. So they're
yes.
taking clothes from the big donation drive that the town's been doing, which hence the name costume party. The clothes are like
Mm,
so different from what these people would
right.
normally wear, and they feel like they're wearing a costume.
Yeah, like that, looking like a. I think Kevin says to his boyfriend Kevin, "You look like a gay lumberjack," because he's got like a plaid shirt or something on. And and I love they really represent through those two characters, like one person who's kind of leaning into this experience, like we're here. I guess I'm doing this. I'm going to try and find some sort of respite or levity. And then his boyfriend being like, I just feel awful. I want to get home. I want to see my family. Or both of which are very understandable directions you could go emotionally. So I think it's really
Yeah.
interesting how they show that through a couple kind of going who end up going their separate ways because of this event.
Yeah, it's very important to note too that one of the Kevins, Kevin Young, like his family is in New York, so it's like
Yeah.
totally understandable that he wants to go home and be with
And
them.
he,
He's probably like worried sick about them, because
yeah, that
at this point, a lot of these people haven't been able to get in touch with their families. Like
right.
they talk about how like the line for the payphones were so long that they had to pretend the phones were out of order just to get them on the buses to
Yeah.
get to where they need to be. And so at this point, a lot of them haven't been able to get in touch with their loved ones. And so I can imagine like Kevin Young is just terrified. It's like, did anything happen to my family? Like,
Right.
so
And
yeah.
how I would understand if he resented the other guy, his boyfriend Kevin, they're both called Kevin, um, for not feeling exactly the way he feels. For like, when you look at you having like a self-actualizing experience while I'm worried that like my mother and my sister aren't alive anymore. And rather than like really staying here with me mentally and like grieving and worrying with me, here you are almost enjoying yourself. I understand where the resentment comes from. Um, yeah, how this experience shaped people very differently. So I feel for both of them in what they're going through. I think this song leads into everybody going out to the bar, doesn't it? Pretty soon
Um,
that happens.
Not quite. Um, it's more so going into like, again, um like more aspects of being in community with other people that we don't really think about often. And
Mm,
like people start making breakfast at 4 a.m. because
mm.
in some cultures, like they mentioned Germany, for instance, that's when they start eating breakfast, you know? So yeah, 4 a.m. is like super early. I don't get up that early on purpose, but it,
Mm.
but again, like
Interesting.
it's like more cultural differences, right?
Yeah, like so because I know I do know somebody who is German who would have to get up that early for work. I don't know if that's a cultural typical norm, but I know at least one person who did do that. So um to get on with the day. Yeah, and how they had to accommodate for those things. Is that where they kind of at
Yeah.
some point, I don't know if it's this song, but somebody starts talking about like, yeah, I saw a pie dish like as big as three people. Like the amount of food that was constantly having to be made to feed everybody is
Yeah.
incredible. And
Yeah.
like who's financing any of this? The town. The town are just like using all the resources they have to take care of these come from aways. That's what they're called.
Yeah, that's where the musical title comes from. They call them come from
Yeah,
a
the name.
ways. But like they run into like different like dietary needs. Like the Kevins are vegetarian. There's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi who only eats kosher.
Mm.
There are Hindu people and Muslim people who also have like specific diets. Yeah, and we see a lot more of like people acting like super sus about Ali because he's Muslim. What I noticed too is notably, a lot of the people of color passengers are the ones who are like wanting to get the hell out. Because
Yeah, that's an interesting observation.
they're yeah, because at one point they decide, oh, let's have like a huge cookout, because why not? And there
Mm.
is a black man, and I'm not remembering the character's name right now, but he's asked like, oh, go to people's yards and like get the barbecues out, and he's like, you
So
want
you
you
want me
want
to go to people's house and steal their barbecues without telling them? Like, where the hell am I right now where that's a normal thing to do? Hi, I'm gonna just take your barbecue. Okay,
yeah,
bye.
and like he specifically says that he's worried about getting shot.
Yeah.
Like it seems as though, and I don't know how like true this is in real life, but it seems like this small Canadian town is like, at least at that point in time, was like a little more accepting than like places in the United States even.
Mm.
Because then we get into the Kevins, who are like a gay couple. They're like very wary about telling people they're a couple, but then
Yeah.
like when they're out for drinks or whatever later in the story, one of them like accidentally lets it slip out, and then a bunch of people are like, oh yeah, my sister's gay, oh yeah, my uncle's gay. It's like they all have
Mm.
like gay relatives, and then they say something to the effect of like, we somehow landed in the gayest town in Newfoundland.
Yeah, I guess because it talks about assumptions made either way. Like, especially because this is a musical that deals in several places with prejudice and prejudices that have risen a lot since 9/11, for it to then touch on the contrast between prejudices you might hold and ones you might assume other people hold for you, and they don't always match up. Like they assumed that this was going to be a bigoted place because it's a small town, which is
Yeah.
a ridiculous assumption
Yeah.
to make. Like we often associate smaller communities with like um usually being more conservative or less worldly, depending on how far removed they are from the rest of the world. And yeah, it's a real joyous moment when they realize that, like, oh, I'm not in danger here. That's not how they feel about me. Is that how I think people feel about me at home, where I'm supposed to feel safe? Like, it is, I think it's a very interesting comment. I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to say, but where people end up feeling safer in Gander than they did in their own communities.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And like, it's important to note too, like, yeah, they think they're going to experience prejudice because it's a small town, but it's also the early 2000s where gay marriage wasn't even legal in several
Right.
states, you know? Like there weren't as many protections for queer people as there now. Oh, well, although with the current administration, I don't know if I can say that anymore, but the next number is the one that really made me cry, which is I Am Here. Um, this is where the character Hannah, whose son is a firefighter, is like trying to get in
Mhm.
touch with her son, and like no one's heard from him. He's like MIA, and she's really frustrated that she's stranded and like can't really
Mm.
do anything about it.
I know. It's so intense. Um, because while it feels like everyone around her is getting on with it, or like settling in, she can't settle. Like, how can a mother settle when she's not sure if her son is okay or where he is or if he's even alive, and how she's praying. I think this is what leads into the song that's about prayer, possibly because
Yes, it
uh
does. She bonds
yeah.
with one of the locals whose name is Beulah, whose son is
Oh
also a
yeah.
firefighter. She tries to cheer her up with jokes, but it's not a very good joke.
Yeah, but sometimes that's what you need. You need a bad joke to be like, I can't believe you just thought that that was funny. That's so cheesy.
Yeah.
Um,
So she like takes
yeah, they
Hannah
bond.
to like a Catholic church, right?
Mm,
Um, yeah, this town's like not they so they make a joke of like, oh yeah, we've got all kinds of people here. We got Catholic people, we got Baptist people, we've got non-denominational people. It's just and like that's the joke, right? It's just like various
yeah,
forms of Christianity.
right.
Um, I love this number too, because I it does a really good job of showing how um, faith and religion can be very comforting from people of all
Yeah,
walks of life. Like it doesn't really matter like what religion you choose that is comforting for you. Like
right.
it should have the same effect.
It brings. I love how these differences that usually are potentially points of contention, like differences in religion, have caused wars for time immemorial, and here you see them all coming together, seeking comfort from various different religious sources, and how they take a Christian song, which I actually knew well, and I really, the first time I heard them sing it, it made me gasp because my upbringing was I wouldn't say it was even a particular denomination. I think the church I went to growing up was non-denominational, and there were people from any kind of Christian background there. But my grandfather was a Methodist minister, and my dad was obviously raised with that, and now he played the piano in a church for a long, long time too. But I always appreciated that I would still describe my family as very progressive. My dad actually left. There was a group that he left because he felt that they were being essentially homophobic and supporting homophobic causes, and he was like, "I'm out." And
Mm-hmm.
so I was very proud of my dad in that moment. Uh, he's a cool guy, very, very good man. And it's his favorite. I think it's his favorite hymn. So it really struck me when the "Make Me a Channel of Your Peace" is a really beautiful song. So whether you're religious or not, I think it's a good one to listen to if you want to be like, I want to know what Christianity is supposed to be about and not all of this like other nonsense that's about hating people. It's a really good example of like a good hymn. Make me a channel of your peace. And then you get to hear it sung in various styles and languages, and then they sing it in canon over the top of each other in harmonies, and it really swells this piece where you realize like, yes, even these differences in a time like this, a terrible, terrible time, even these things can all come together.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two moments in this number that really stuck out to me. There's an elderly man who's lived in Gander his whole life, and
Mm,
he is Jewish. His parents sent him to Gander from Poland basically to protect him from what was going on during World War II. And so he like arrived in Canada as a child and was told never to reveal that he was Jewish. So like he never told anyone in Gander for the whole
mm.
time that he was there. And then he learns that there's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi as one of the passengers, and he finally feels safe to tell someone.
His first, yeah, his first opportunity to really talk about it ever,
I'm gonna tear
which I
up.
think is incredible. Incredible that that experience was brought out. Like so, like even in something so terrible as this, you see these little moments of how it changed the course of people's lives in all kinds of ways, good and bad. And that I hope that part's based on truth because I find that really moving. That like he suddenly had this opportunity that he would not maybe have had ever otherwise. He may never have revealed that to anybody and taken it to his grave feeling unsafe. And yeah, there's something I want to use the word harrowing, but it's not that it's just more there's something so epic and grounding and spiritually deep about that experience for him. It was not even necessarily a religious experience. It was a experience of like revealing something, coming out. He was essentially coming out. And yeah, again, another way that the course of somebody's life was changed forever.
Mm-hmm. And then the second thing that stuck out to me in this number, so Ali mentions how he he can feel everyone judging him. He
Mm,
can feel everyone like treating him with such suspicion and wariness just because he's Muslim, and
mm,
it gets so bad to the point where he has to wait for everyone else to fall asleep to start praying.
mm,
Which, for anyone who doesn't know, people who practice Islam have to pray 5 times a day. So to have to wait till basically the middle of the night when everyone is asleep to even start doing that is like a big deal, and
mm.
nobody should ever have to do that. He's basically being demonized for doing the same thing everyone else is doing, which is praying
Praying for
and
comfort.
finding comfort in your religious beliefs.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and
in that
religious freedoms are a big thing under attack right now.
Yeah, and in that number, someone does come up who's like, "Hey, we have a room right here. If you want to pray here."
Yes,
Um,
it's Beulah. She's the
yes,
the legend.
yeah, um, yeah, beautiful number. I think you're right that it does totally capture like the best of religion, and just that idea of like finding comfort in whatever brings you comfort. Like I find comfort in witchcraft uh, and like paganism. Uh,
Mm,
doing those rituals, which a lot of them are like grounding exercises. That's what brings comfort to me. Um, and I like to say that I believe in everybody's gods because there's no way of truly knowing what's out
right.
there or what comes after death. Um, and I don't know, it's just my way of saying like whatever you believe and whatever makes you the best version of yourself, um,
Right.
you should go with that.
Exactly.
next number is on the edge, where everyone's on edge. Um,
Yeah, that's where we see our like racism and religious tensions kind of come to a head.
yeah, the line that really stuck out to me, which again goes back to, uh, like watching the news just makes me crazy. I can't do it. Someone says the TV is on 24/7, and the more people watch, the more scared and angry they get.
Which is very relevant today too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I used to have sort of a landlord. He was like a homeowner in a just outside of LA who was like renting out rooms to people. And that was like the last place I lived in before moving back home. But like anytime he was home, all he watched was like Fox News and sometimes true
Mhm.
crime. Uh and like I genuinely think doing that like rots your brain.
Yeah,
It's not to
anything like drives you crazy.
I mean, first of all, it's Fox News, so um, like that's the first red flag. Second of
Mhm.
all, it is important to keep up with what's going on in the world, but to have the TV on 24/7,
You never have a break.
you need a break, or else you're not going to be able to effectively do anything productive about what's going on. You know?
Yeah. And that, I mean, that is also a form of indoctrination is to not give people a break, to just bombard them with, uh, you make it seem like it's new information, but because you want them to keep watching because of ratings. And this is a problem that, and like obviously, like money you get from advertising and things in between, where you want to do anything to keep the attention, but even to the detriment of the person whose attention you're keeping. You don't really care about them as long as the TV's on. And if the TV stays on and you're hearing the same narrative pushed, even if it seems like you're hearing different information, but you're actually hearing the same narrative and that some key words and phrases repeated again and again and again, that's going to be in you. You're going to carry that with you.
Yeah.
It's conditioning.
So like people start like verbally and at one point physically attacking Ali because like he's trying to get in
Mm.
touch with his family and he's not speaking English. He's like speaking his
Oh
native
yeah,
language,
I remember.
and they start accusing him of being a terrorist. One person is like, "Oh, are you plotting your next move with your Muslim friends?" And he's like, "That wasn't all
What are you
Muslims, you
talking about?
guys." Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people are saying like, "Go back to where you came from." And one Muslim woman is like, "Oh, I'm Muslim and I was born in America. I live in Connecticut." And they're like, "You
And
don't
he's
look
like, you don't
American."
look. Yeah, exactly. You don't look American. And so we bring to the surface the topic at hand, which is like it's a nation founded on immigrants, it's multicultural by nature. And yet this was a big turning point for people being like, well, I feel like I can't trust anybody but people that share my religion or my perceived community or race or whatever it is. Um, yeah, this was a microcosm for the feelings that were stirred all across America and other places in the world. Like I'm talking about America, like because this is obviously when US airspace was closed, it's about 9/11. But Britain's not exactly a anti-racist utopia, so it's there too. You know what I mean? It's something that's occurring everywhere. Xenophobia and racism are definitely charged when anybody goes, oh, look, here's a group that we can pinpoint and they're responsible.
So we definitely see more racial tension and more racism and
Mm,
xenophobia. We also see like some other stressors happening amongst the characters. So we see like, you know, the poor animals are like stressed out because they haven't seen their owners, and
mm,
you know, people aren't allowed to see their pets because they can't go anywhere near the planes. And I thought that was really sad.
yeah.
I was like, oh, poor babies. Um, and then
Yeah.
Janice, the reporter, like she's so overwhelmed with like all the
Mm,
interviews and like having to keep up with on this story every day that she actually considers quitting her job altogether.
yeah. Like,
Uh,
how can I just keep reporting on this? I feel like there's something more I could be doing than go around talking to people. But um, yeah, another example of people reassessing their lives in the wake of what happened.
Yeah.
But she's such a cute character. She has some great lines too. Um, and I think that what she does is actually very important. Like reporting on things, remembering history, and I wonder what she's up to in real life. I'm assuming she's still around. So I'm fascinated by the lives of the real people that these stories were based on. I should go away and look her up.
Yeah. I have no idea what she's up to now. I do know that this story was like kind of her big break and she was offered
Hmm.
like a bigger job somewhere else, but she opted to stay in Gander instead.
Hmm.
Um, so she was still
I get it.
there. So she was still there for like the 10th anniversary. I'm not sure if she's still there now, like nearly 20 years later.
Hmm. But I can see why, after seeing your
Over 20
community
years,
be amazing
sorry.
heroes. Sorry?
Sorry, I said nearly 20 years. I meant over 20 years. Sorry.
Yeah.
uh,
Like, what year is it? Where are we? But yeah, after you see a community, your community do such a feat of amazing care and community care, I'd probably be inspired to stay too. Be like, yeah, I'm proud to be an islander, a Newfoundlander,
uh,
um, from Gander in that moment. I can see why she'd want to stay. That shared history, shared trauma. It can't have been easy for the town to go through this, but they also have to be the ones being strong because whenever somebody's more stressed than you, you're like, okay, so my role is taking care of them then. I don't have time to be stressed myself. I have to step
yeah,
up.
that's a big theme throughout the show,
Mm.
especially in Beverly's character. We see like she's constantly staying by the phone, hearing updates from her bosses. She is she's kind of keeping tabs on the American airport system and figuring out, when they're going to be able to leave. And then on top of that, she's like keeping an eye on the planes because, she explains how the way the planes are parked, it could like badly affect the engines, which could delay their trip even more. And they,
Mm. They're not designed to be still for this long.
yeah, exactly. And then on top of that, they find out that like a hurricane is like heading to Newfoundland. It was Hurricane Erin. So like if they don't get out of there like tomorrow, it could delay them even more because of like
Mm.
the weather conditions. Like it's all so stressful. And then if that wasn't bad enough, the female bonobo chimpanzee is giving birth.
Yes, which is just wild. Like, of course, there was a pregnant bonobo chimpanzee on this flight, and Bonnie's like, I guess I'm handling this now. But I love that again in another like nice moment. Uh, she seems much more excited about it than worried about it in the way that the character portrays that, which I enjoy. Where she's like, "We're about to have the first bonobo chimpanzee born in Newfoundland," and she's all excited about it.
Okay, I mean, I don't blame her. Like, can you imagine being like a veterinarian? So, like, you're an animal lover, obviously, because why would you go to school
Mm.
for so many years to take care of animals? Um,
If you didn't love them.
exactly. And then all of a sudden, you're in charge of like this wild animal that you've never seen in person before. And now you have to help them give birth to a baby wild animal that you've never seen before. And it's going to be so cute.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be so cute. Yeah, so she's very relatable in that because even when the world is falling apart around you, you cling to the good news or like the interesting or exciting things. Those things don't go away.
Yeah.
They're still there.
It's literally like when I'm scrolling through TikTok and there's so much bad news and bad stuff happening.
Mm.
But this husky video throwing a tantrum is going to make me feel better.
Yeah, like oh, look at him he's stamping his little feet.
Well, I love the husky crash outs so much. It's not even funny. I wouldn't want one in person, um, but I like watching them. They decide to go out to the bar.
Aha, see, then this is probably one of my favorite numbers. This and then it leads into the ritual of becoming a Newfoundlander. Because they do their like a classic folk song, which I think is really cool that they have in there. Everyone's in a bar enjoying themselves. They talk about how their whiskey Screech got its name. There's all this like fun lore And then it's like, well, would anybody like to become a Newfoundlander? And I love the idea because I would have been one of the people that's like, yes, I'm down. Let's do it. What's like the ritual? What's the ceremony? Like there's some fun and a feeling of acceptance in them offering that to be like, okay, any of you come from a ways. If you want to be an official honorary Newfoundlander, step on up, become one. Like the ultimate act of acceptance and camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we see the two Kevins have very different views on this because of what they've been going through.
Yeah. One of the Kevins is like super into it. He's like, yeah, I'll kiss the fish. And Kevin goes like, please don't.
Yeah, I think his boyfriend Kevin says, I'll never kiss you again if you kiss a fish. And then he says, oh, I'll take that chance. And I think it's in that moment you're like, these guys are going to break up. They're having a very different experience right now.
Yeah, they're kind of having a hard time. Also, this is a good chance to talk about Nick and Diane, who I love. So,
Yeah.
so Nick works for like what is it, an oil company? And he's from Britain.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Uh,
And the guy's not from Britain, the actor that portrays him. So I think he does a really good job of doing the British accent. I think he's American.
oh, is he? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because he has an American accent and a Newfoundlander accent in different parts of the
Oh,
show.
that's
So I just
right.
assume.
Yeah, and then Diane is from Texas. And I just love the bond that they have, and like this is where they start to reveal more and more of their feelings for each other. At one point,
Mm.
Diane is like, "Oh, I don't want to kiss the fish," and then Mayor Claude is like, "Okay, how about this? I'll cut you a deal. You can kiss the fish, or you can kiss Nick here." And she's like, "Obviously, I'm gonna kiss this man that I have
Yeah,
a crush on."
that I have a crush on. They're so cute together.
Yeah, they're adorable. They're like an older couple. There's
Mm.
like one point earlier in the show where like he assumes that she's married and like checking up on her husband, but it's actually her son, and she is very much single.
Yeah, and I think she says she's divorced at some point when they're discussing it. Um, and oh, they are very cute. And they have that joke where she's like, I've never had more than one beer at a time before, so it was probably the alcohol talking. Um, and then there's this like joke that I feel hasn't aged well, where he goes, "Oh, I went and got her two more beers." I'm like,
mm.
she
Oh,
already wants to kiss you. You don't need to get her like inordinately drunk. Like it's meant to be like oh, I want her to like me. I feel like the subtext is just meant to be that. Like, oh, he's into her and she's into him. Great. But just I'm like, I'm not sure I like that. Like, no. If she hasn't had more than one beer at a time before, don't be pushing
yeah,
her to have
that's
loads to drink so she'll fancy you. That's not how it's gonna work. She can't be drunk your whole relationship.
yeah. I didn't like that. Kind of took me out of the moment for a little bit
Yeah.
there.
But I agree. And I think that it was just like, I don't think it was intended to make the audience uncomfortable. So that's why it just feels like a joke that didn't age well.
Yeah, which is crazy because like the show's not that old. Also, this number is like it speaks to like such a universal truth, which is that booze makes it easier to bond. Booze brings people
Mm.
together.
It does. People, and then I love how they mention people after a few beers are like getting naked and jumping into the river, which I'm like, that better be true. That's my favorite thing about this.
Yeah. Every time I've like traveled anywhere, the way we've like bonded is drinking.
Mm. That it is the way humans. That is the way. See, I don't like to drink, but for my whole time being an adult and even obviously like young, having an occasional drink before I was 18, which is the legal age in England, I I never really understood drinking. I never really got why people did it, but it's a social lubricant, and that makes sense.
Yeah, it is a social lubricant, and honestly, like as an autistic person, I found that like when I am drinking, I'm like less worried about masking or like how I'm coming across to
Yeah,
people.
it makes it so much easier. I guess maybe that's why I'm a bit of a control freak, and so then I'm like, oh, I don't want to not have all of my obsessive wits about me. I can't relax. But no, I'm sure I probably come across as a lot more normal when drunk. than I do not drink, which is funny.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or if you're not acting normal, people will just attribute it to you like, oh, they're just drunk.
oh, it's the
It's fine.
alcohol,
And it's not just, I
right?
don't know how you are.
I should just walk around with a fake beer at all times, but it's just the alcohol. Pay no attention to my strange behavior. It's just the alcohol.
That's
Uh,
actually a brilliant idea. This is the big musical number that earned the actress who plays Beverly a Tony nomination.
mm.
So this is Me in the Sky,
Oh,
which basically like
I sing this.
tells her true life story, and it's
Mm.
beautiful.
It's so well written, so well performed, and then it's just crushing because she goes on from like what excited her about being a pilot, like how she knew she was going to do it even before anyone had done it. And
Yeah, like she always wanted to be a pilot from the time she was a little girl, and like so many people told her she can't do it because she's a girl.
yeah,
But she did it anyway, and she was the first female captain of American Airlines. I think she was in 1986, basically saying like there's no limit, there's nothing that can come between me and the sky. And I love the line because at one point she talks about when she gets her first job at an airport, and
mm.
all of the gross men are like, hey babe, get me a drink. And then later when she becomes a pilot, she's like, suddenly all of those pilots protesting me, well, they can get their own drinks.
Yes, it's it's such an important part of history to acknowledge, and they managed to do it all in this song, where yeah, they didn't like that she was there, and she even didn't get a lot of friendship from the air stewards at the time, or stewardesses, because they all tended to be female in the era she's describing, where she came up, and how they thought that she was better than them, and that's why she wanted to be a pilot and a stewardess, or a I'm trying to think what the actual term is. There's a bunch of different terms like air hostess or
I usually just say flight attendant.
that's the term I think I'm searching for, flight attendant. Um, because yeah, now captains can be any gender, flight attendants can be any gender, and it's interesting when we look this number makes us look into the past and maybe times that maybe like there were hard times in other ways at other points, and that maybe the past isn't always so rosy. Like these were World War II pilots, like heroes who had done great things, and they were still sexist. Like
Yeah,
like history's not perfect. History isn't as rosy as we think it
yeah.
is.
At the end of the day, they were still men.
At the end of the day, we checked. They were still men. Then what I love about this song is takes you on this big. It does feel like the song makes you fly. Like you lift off. You're with her. She's all like joyous, and then the way that she talks about right at the end of the song, where you kind of feel like this amazing anticlimactic thing of like, and suddenly the thing that I loved most in the world was used as a bomb, and now she's in a hotel, wondering what the hell just happened. And now suddenly there is something in between her and the sky. Like she knows it's not going to be the same. She finds herself now thanking people. I think later she mentions that like she's thanking people for still choosing to fly, because she's frightened that like is this entire form of travel just going to go away now because it can be under such threat? And obviously we know that didn't happen, but people didn't know exactly what was going to happen after that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, gosh, it's such an incredible song that tells such such an amazing story about a lesser known part of history, and
Mm,
it's like so uplifting and like empowering, and then just the
yeah,
gut punch of like, mm,
so well done. If you only listen to one song on this soundtrack, I'd say listen to that one. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like if you had to just pick one song to be like that one, pick that one.
yeah. This would be the song that I would show people to convince them to listen to the entire soundtrack or like watch the
Yes,
show.
it's the
Um,
song that I can't wait to be old enough to perform.
yes, it's actually quite heartbreaking to see her not allow herself to have fun
Relax
or
or
take a break.
decompress.
And we can see it's affecting her. Like, it does affect her. She very much feels everything, but because she's the captain, she feels that she can't show anyone that she's struggling.
Yeah, she's my favorite character for sure. Like, especially the if I could play anybody, it would be the characters that that actress gets to play throughout it. She has these interesting characters. Although I wouldn't mind being the news reporter too. I love her.
Oh yeah, Janice is great.
Janice is wonderful.
I'll take any role in this show. I don't care.
Yeah. How many songs do we have left? I forget. There's so many.
Um, we have like I think five more because there's like a
Five.
number in between like me and the sky and then the next number which is the Doverfall / Stop the World, which is very sweet. There's like a
Very sweet and
there's like a
oh, Diane,
whole
our couple.
yeah, there's like a whole scene in between that where they're told, okay, you know, all clear, like we're good to go home. And everyone's like getting ready to leave. The locals are giving them back lunches, which is super sweet. You know, the Kevins are fighting because of their different viewpoints of this whole situation.
Yeah, we see relationships break apart and come together in that moment.
Yeah. And then
Which
we
is
find
very
out,
sweet.
yeah. And then, you know, Diane initially thinks like, oh, while you're in Dallas, like we should hang out. And then Nick reveals like, actually my conference was canceled, so I have to go back to London, and it's very sad.
Right. And
Um,
how it feels. She mentions that like, oh, it feels weird that I can't remember if it's this song or the next one where she says like the only reason we met each other was that this terrible thing happened, and I feel it taints her experience of the relationship.
yeah, there's like a survivor's guilt happening there.
Yeah, very much, and I
Um,
completely get it.
yeah. So yeah, what sticks out to me about this scene is like, you know, everyone's scrambling and like waiting for their planes to be ready. Like it's actually like crazy, like how fast airport procedures changed after nine
Yeah,
11. Like it was immediately. Because as soon as like they're given the all clear to go home, already like bags are being searched. They're saying no scissors, no clips, nothing that could even possibly be used as a weapon. You know, they're talking about there's issues with security, and one of Beverly's flight attendants said like, "Hey, there's a Muslim man on our flight, and he's been praying and acting suspicious, and he doesn't have a carry-on, and I'm not getting back on that plane with him." And Ali is like pulled out of line for that and like strip searched. Excuse, I cannot say that phrase. But like,
tongue twister. But yeah, and like it's so awful that, but out of fear, think like the processes and procedures are going above and beyond to make certain people feel safe at the expense of the both feelings of safety and genuine safety of others. Like, oh, we're gonna just to make everyone else feel safe, we're gonna take this to an extreme. Like, really, like praying is not some kind of admission of guilt here, guys. He's just praying.
yeah, it's really awful. And like, this is like, um, you know, this is where I'm going to critique uh, Beverly a bit. And like, I don't know how much say she had in the matter. She did say
Yeah, I don't know.
she did say this was the most thorough strip search she had ever seen in her career,
Mm,
which is extremely telling. She does tell Ali like, "I'm so sorry that that happened. Once it's over." I just again like I can't say for sure like how much say she had in that decision,
mm,
but it just felt I don't know. It just felt not right.
mm.
Like she obviously knows that that was wrong, but she didn't like say anything until after the
Right.
fact.
And that moment does feel kind of it's very brief. Oh, and I was really sorry that happened. And then it moves on, and you're like, oh, that kind of. I don't know if maybe we should have lingered on what happened there and like explored that more because it does feel kind of like just a quick moment. It's not really explored.
Yeah. I do wish that they kind of explored this more because
Yeah.
it it really can't be overstated how much the treatment of Muslim people or anyone even perceived as a Muslim person,
Right.
specifically in airports, like drastically changed. Like, um, you know, a lot of people have uh, reported like really, really invasive searches and like strip searches, which I don't think strip searching should even be a thing. If I'm being completely honest, I consider it a form of sexual assault. Um, and just like that, I don't like this shit gets me heated. I just don't see how um, I just don't see how it's necessary. Not that like security as a whole isn't necessary, but to take it to such an extreme that you're like violating people's rights and their dignity. Uh, Ali says at one point, in my culture, there is a word, aura. I'm completely butchering that. I'm so sorry. But it's basically referring to the area between your stomach and your knees, and it's forbidden in my religion for anyone to see this except for my wife.
Mm.
And to have a woman in the room watching this, you can't understand it. Like,
Yeah.
and like you know, I consider it a form of sexual assault, not only because you're making someone like remove all their clothing and like
Right.
checking body parts. Like that's pretty obvious. I don't think anyone would disagree with that part, but like it has the exact same trauma effect.
No, I think it's a good point. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I definitely see it as feeling violating, especially when it feels like it's being done without being warranted. Like it's just, are we gonna strip search anybody at the vague suspicion of anybody else? Like, and obviously because of the time that this happened, everybody was feeling extra sensitive and not making like sensible decisions or unable to see that what they were doing, like they weren't caring about the effect it was having on him. If they were like, well, if there's a chance we'll take this far, but when if you actually could stop and think about it, and you weren't and but was it that they actually were worried, or were they about whether or not he was a terrorist, or were they worried about placating everybody on that plane, being like, look, we've done enough to prove that it's fine? And that the weird, delicate, frightening politics therein of, are they doing this to placate the mob, or are they doing this because they actually have any concerns over him? And then on top of that, you have, were their actions correct? Like, how should this have been handled? What has he actually done wrong for anybody to be suspicious of him, other than the fact that he isn't white?
Yeah. I don't know if the reasoning behind it actually matters, whether they had concerns of their own or they were just placating everyone else. I'm not sure if that detail really matters because at the end of the day,
Mm.
um, a human being was violated, you
Yeah,
know, and he wasn't the only one.
he represents a lot of people who I think, and profiling is something that still happens constantly.
I'm glad that they're not that I'm glad the show didn't shy away from this very real issue. I just wish that maybe they had spent more time on it because I don't know whether like regardless of Beverly's personal feelings on it, she was still complicit. Like she was still in the
Yeah.
room to watch this violation take place, and like I don't know. So after this, it's basically like a false alarm. So like
Mm.
it's not a false alarm, but what happens is one of the planes has a flat tire, like basically the first plane that was supposed to take off. And so because
Mm.
of that, it's blocking off the rest of the planes, and they all have to stay there for another day while they're getting the tire fixed.
After all of that, they don't even get off the ground.
God, I cannot imagine just how frustrating that would be.
Mm.
But we do get the next number, which is super sweet, which is Stop the World. This is where Nick and Diane find the Dover Fault, and they just get like this really pretty view. The Dover Fault is like a part in Canada where like the continents crashed together and then separated. and then I think came together again, but
Mm.
I could be
Which is
getting that wrong.
representative of their relationship. They come
Yes.
together, they're going to be apart, and they will come together again.
Yes. And it's so sweet because like Nick has like his digital, not his digital, his excuse me. Nick has just his disposable camera. Diana's like, "Oh, this will be a great picture with such a beautiful view. Make sure you get it." And she's like, "Oh, wait, I'm in your way. Let me step out." And he's like, "No, no, no. This is perfect."
Like,
And he's just taking
you're
pictures of
part of the
her.
view. And yeah, they're like, I think it reminds me so much of my, obviously not the terrible treachery and terrifyingness of what they actually went through in terms of the world event. But my husband and I are from different continents, and when we realized we liked each other, and then that I was going to be going back to England, and I did go back to England, and we weren't sure if it was going to be a thing. I can relate to that emotion of like, this is so perfect. I don't want to leave. Like we were working together on a contract in Canada, and he was from America and I was from Britain. So there are the parallels.
Oh my
Um,
god.
right. And then not knowing if you're going to come back together or if it's going to be the same. Is this just like lightning in a bottle? Is this just this moment in time and it's wonderful and it won't be the same? And obviously, just like Nick and Diane, actually, I don't know what they're up to now, but uh, it's kind of beautiful when you're like, yeah, this chance meeting turned into something that guided the shape of the rest of my life.
Yeah, they do end up getting married in the
Mm.
finale, which is super sweet.
Very sweet.
So then I think we only have like three more or two more numbers before the finale. So then we get the 38 planes reprise, and
Yeah,
which
as
leads
they
into
all take off this time.
somewhere in the middle
Mm.
of nowhere. The poor bonobo chimpanzee. We find out that her baby ended up passing away.
Because as I get it, like there's no specialist there. Um, and Bonnie would have been doing her best, and sometimes little ones don't make it, but also the stress this bonobo chimp mother must have been under, like not being able to understand what was going on. Yeah, it was just a very adjacent, sad little moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that regrounds you after you're like, oh, everything's gonna be okay, but then it's kind of that grounding reminder of like, because we get into hearing about loved ones that are lost. I don't know if have we already heard news of from Hannah at this point?
Um, that's at the end of the next number, which is something's missing.
Mm. Oh
All,
yeah, everyone's experience once they get home is
yeah.
like
So
nothing's the same anymore.
I also love this number so much.
Mm.
So yeah, this is where we're learning like, oh yeah, Nick and Diane are keeping in touch, but there's some survivor's guilt because the only reason this relationship exists is because of this terrible thing that happened.
Mm.
Um, we're hearing from the locals, Hurricane Aaron came in shortly after the passengers left, so they're having to deal with
Mm.
that now. They're kind of just like, we can't catch a break.
Yeah, they can't, and but that's what I guess they imply that that's what life is like up there, where they just have to keep going all the time, and their community is this like strong, grounded group of people that stick together to the point where they'll even put a strike on hold to take care of thousands of people. And I can't believe a hurricane comes right after they just dealt with everything they just dealt with. Wow.
Yeah, but they also mention how like, they're like, uh, the town feels emptier. It felt like a big party before, and now they're like picking
Mm.
up random stuff that people left behind, like clothes, shampoo, toys. But also, like, a lot of the passengers wrote thank you notes and like sent them money as a thank you, which I
Yeah,
thought was so sweet.
because they kept like saying that like no, it's fine, you don't need to give us anything. But then people were doing collections for them, or had mentioned like, oh, if you really want to do something, you can put it in this community box, and here's where you can find it. And then people were shoving money in there, basically being like, you guys spent everything you had to take care of us, everything you had in this town. Whew, like the sharing of resources, there's something very profound in that. Like if you do human civilization before we had currency, it's like the sharing of resources was everything. To
Yeah,
like grant or deny somebody access to your ways of staying clean or eating or the most basic primal things that connect us. I feel like this show brings forth fear, like all those different primal things about what it means to be human are touched on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that like that's what it means to be in a community, right? Like
Mm.
people contribute where they can, and like ideally everyone gets taken care of in that way.
Mm.
And so yeah, we also, we're also learning about like what life is like for the passengers once they get back to the States.
It's a heartbreaking song. The music, the music is so well done because like the unease, you feel it in the musical composition. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So like they get back on the 15th. So they were in Newfoundland for like 4 days.
Mm.
The people who like live in New York mentioned how there's still smoke. They can still see smoke 4 days later, and like, gosh, it's so heartbreaking to hear that like when Hannah, the mom, got home, the first thing she did
Mm.
was go to her son's work and he was still
Yeah,
missing. And then I think she like tried to visit him at his home and he wasn't there. Uh, and when she finally finds out like that he
she
died,
calls Beulah.
yeah,
Yeah, so she's. Oh, I have shivers right now because like she spent all those 4 days in agony, worrying, only to have her worst fears confirmed when she got home. Like that was her experience. It's awful.
I can't even. I'm not a
Mm.
I'm not a parent. I can't imagine that level of pain of like having to bury your child. I mean, to my knowledge, I don't think she even gets to bury her child because like
They don't, yeah, they don't talk about it. I don't know if he died in the process of helping or what exactly happened. But yeah, like exactly something's missing. Like the normal procedures of what happens when someone passes away. This interrupted everything.
mm-hmm, yeah,
And the closure that she must not have had is awful.
yeah, horrible. There's another character who also lives in New York, and he says, "Back at my dad's house, I look out the window at this view I've looked at my whole life, and now a part of it," and he like trails off, and like you could take
Mm.
it in the literal sense of like he is looking at the New York skyline and the twin towers are
Mm.
gone.
All right.
But then there's also obviously like the metaphorical something's missing.
Yeah. That safety that we felt as a group before. Like this is a safe place to live. Whether or not you felt like that, because I'm not New York has not never had any problems, but what I mean that idea of like nothing like that could ever happen here, people no longer felt that way.
Mm-hmm. I think I think the line that like probably gutted me the most, besides Hannah finding out her son passed away. Um, Ali basically talks about, how his life has changed since coming home. And,
Mm.
on the way to one of his restaurants, he drops his daughter off at school and she won't go in because she's scared. And he's like, "What do
Mm.
I tell her?" And like they're obviously referring to the fact like they're a Muslim family and the way they're being treated is so much worse now. And like,
Mm.
his daughter's being bullied at school for it. Um, but I also think that's another line that feels even more prevalent now
Yeah.
because of all the school shootings that have
All the school
occurred.
shootings and which are just seem like they're so common that it feels like not every single one even gets talked about anymore. And also recent uprising, like I've seen more stories recently of, in particular, like uh, immigrants and children of immigrants being bullied to the point of total despair. And a recovery as a nation in terrible times, it's not just like, oh, this bad thing happened and now we all have to get past it together. There are also all these terrible manifestations of fear and hatred that also need to be processed. And each one causes another one. You know what I mean? Like it's a chain reaction of um, side effects of anything like this. And yeah, I like again that they touched on the side effects going beyond just the event itself.
Mhm.
Didn't try to make it sound like, oh, and that's all done now. Like, absolutely not. It's still what happened on that day is still very, very relevant all
Yeah.
these years later.
Yeah. Yeah, there's obviously a very big theme of community and coming together and helping each other in hard times. But
Mm,
I do appreciate that they don't shy away from the fact that that really wasn't the case for a
right.
lot of people, especially for, in this case, after 9/11, it was a lot of Muslim people, really anyone who could be perceived as a Muslim. So, like, a lot of Sikh people were also targeted. Um,
Mm,
Even just like people of Indian descent or um, like it literally anything that could be perceived as Muslim or Middle Eastern, like those people were targeted. Um,
mm,
like it wasn't like not all people like just came together and helped each other so seamlessly. Um, like there were very profound ripple effects for
mm,
already marginalized people. Um, and then yeah,
mm.
this is a really heavy show actually.
Yeah. Like it's so joyous in places, but it does not it's a roller coaster ride of ups and downs and how they're all smushed together over the course of 4 days. It feels like they've been through so much in 4 days that it feels longer, but yeah, it takes place over the course of 4 days.
Yeah. The finale kind of does a good job of tying the themes all together because now we're in the
Mm.
10th anniversary in 2011,
Yeah.
and they're all like reuniting. A lot of the passengers are like visiting, and we see a lot of them have like kept in touch and are friends. We see Diane
Mm.
and Nick got married, and like Nick moved to Texas to be with her. It's so cute. Um,
Mhm.
and Beverly is retired now, and it's like a very nice moment. And what I think it touches on is the message of the show isn't just tragedies bring people together, because I think that's a little too simple. I think what it's trying to say instead is that you have to be the one to step up and
Mm.
provide that community care, and it's a group effort, right?
Mm.
The people of Gander totally could have just chosen to be like, "Fuck these guys, we're not doing anything
Right,
for
they could have done
you."
the bare minimum.
Like
They
we
could have done
like
the
we
bare minimum.
they could have been like, "We've got our own problems. We've got a bus strike. Like, we're dealing with our own shit right now." And I think a lot of
Mm.
people have that attitude nowadays, and
Yeah.
that's not to say like don't take on anything more than you can handle, and it's not to say like, oh, you shouldn't be taking care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself in order to take care of
Mm.
others. It's more so to say like, if everybody was just a little more selfless and like contributed what they can, like we would be less lonely, we would have more community, and I think we would all be better off, and we would be able
Mm.
to get a lot more done. And think
Mm.
about too, like in the finale, it's been 10 years, and a lot of these people like have formed friendships or relationships. Relationships take work. Maintaining, especially like friendships and relationships that are long distance, like you have to like actually make an effort to make that work.
Mm. Yeah. No, I think you're right. It goes deeper than than even what I had initially seen, because I think you're right that it's about uh, inspiring people to community care, which is more needed than ever. And that's why my mind keeps wandering to. I'm like, oh, what can I do? And I love that about this show. And even talking about this show is it's making my mind wander, going like, oh, who should I be in community with that I'm not already? What, without depleting myself, like do it in a way where you're still like fill your cup so that it can run over. Who isn't getting any assistance in a particular way that you can help with? And yeah, so that's what I'm trying to like keep myself present because my brain is spinning, going like, oh, who's in my wider community that needs help that I'm not even really aware of? Like who might be right under my nose? Like my neighbors. I don't know my neighbors very well. And I think that's something that Gander had that New York doesn't necessarily have in every aspect. Or every town in America. And there are definitely towns in America where people know their neighbors, don't get me wrong. I just mean it's something that they distinctly show about Gander, that like they all seem to know each other. And even through the strikes that they were experiencing, it still felt like everybody involved was like friends or neighbors in some way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll end it with this, where like that community mindset of like knowing your neighbors, and not to say you necessarily have to be friends or like get along with everybody, but get along with them enough to, problem solve and like keep things
Yeah,
running smoothly. That's truly the key to creating systemic change.
yeah,
Is you have to actually care about people. I've heard a lot of activists say this, and it really rings true. Your love for people has to be stronger than your hatred for bigotry.
mm. That's a perfect way to sum up this episode. Your love for people has to be stronger than your hate.
Yeah. Well, Verity, thank you so much for talking about this show with me. Where can people find you?
Oh, I'm everywhere. No, I can be found. I'm on Instagram. I don't post a lot. I share stories, but I do sometimes show updates of things I'm up to with Epic Players on there. So I'm at Verity Van Dams on there.
All right.
Well, that's showbiz. Once again, if you like this episode, be sure to check out the extended version on my Patreon, as well as other bonus content for just $3 a month. Got any burning questions or comments? DM me on Instagram or leave a comment on YouTube or TikTok, and who knows, I may mention you in an upcoming episode. My socials and my guest socials are in the description box down below, as well as any other upcoming projects and a social justice spotlight related to this week's musical. Thank you so much for watching and supporting, and please come again.